Week 2 is always interesting to me, though, because week 2 of the NFL season is not quite like week 2 of the college football season, which is always terrible because they front load so many good games and then there's nothing left. Like, we got a couple sneaking out here, and they gave us Super Bowl rematch, the Eagles and the Chiefs. And I guess they both had long weeks because of playing in the middle of the week, except the Chiefs had to come back from Brazil after getting their asses kicked. Like, is it rut-row zone for the Chiefs if they lose this game?
No. I'm not throwing dirt on the Chiefs in week 2. I'm fine. But it's not going to feel great. The funny thing is, I think, despite being in the Super Bowl, both of these teams sort of had underwhelming week 1s. I think with the Eagles, obviously, you can explain a lot of that away with the Jalen Carter, ejection. However, also, it's like, well, that's it? You take out Jalen Carter? Is this defense no longer I think that is kind of a scary feeling for Eagles fans. Also seeing what they knew was a vulnerability all offseason, the second cornerback position be so glaringly exposed as one. But I think and this is why week 1's so funny, context is kind of hard to, like, you're watching these and you're thinking, wow, Daniel Jones looks amazing, but is the Dolphins defense just cheeks, right?
Right.
I think the Cowboys offense is actually a lot better than people think, and I think that played into it as well. So I think the Eagles are going to bounce back in a big way. I'm a lot more skeptical about the Chiefs in this one.
All right, I want to stick with the Eagles there because I think the difference in part of why the Eagles' performance, aside from the fact that they won, wouldn't be quite as disappointing is I think we all, at least I did, felt confident saying even if the Eagles are better than everybody else, they were going to be worse this year than they were last year. Like I heard your man Dano talking about this. They lost 2 guys in free agency who got $100 million to play defensive line, right? Like, it's just impossible to keep a team like that together. But then we felt like the Chiefs got better, right? Now, part of it is Rashee Rice is going to come back, but he's not back. He's just back on the team. Hollywood Brown, a couple other moves. We thought that they had improved. The Chiefs, you just pointed to something, and, I'm always here to speak for the underrepresented and the downtrodden. But yes, the Eagles. The Eagles have a problem at number 2 corner, but I feel like the solution is right there in the slot. Just maybe a little bit, they don't want to fix the problem when the man is right there ready to do it.
They might have to do that. And isn't that always how history gets made, Bomani? Out of necessity. That's when true racial pioneers step up to the plate.
Yes,
is when
there's no other choice.
When there's no other choice. Jackie Robinson DeJean could absolutely play outside. I don't know, though, because he's so good in the slot. I think it's a matchup thing. If you're playing the thing about, too, the NFL now is, like, slot corner is no longer like, oh, let's just stick our littlest worst guy there. It's actually really, really important. Like, a lot of teams play their best receiver in the slot. So I feel like, you got to be kind of wary of moving him, especially because he's such a good nickel. He's so good at tackling. He's so physical. I think the solution to the Eagles' cornerback 2 problem is playing the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, because the problem with the Cowboys, and this is what I was saying about how I think they're better than everyone thinks. They got 2 1s.
Yeah.
I don't care what you think about George Pickens. He is a 1. Very few teams have that kind of wide receiver depth, and boy, do the Kansas City Chiefs not have that kind of wide receiver depth.
Do you ever think that Riley Moss is just a little bit sick of hearing about Cooper DeJean, like he ain't right there actually playing outside corner for maybe the best defense in the NFL? And I think people don't even know that he the OG Cooper D.
He was also good last year before he got hurt. And unfortunately, he came back, I think, from the injury, not him, Riley Moss himself. And then he got killed by, I think, the Bengals was that one in national game. Because, yeah, you're right. He was the OG Cooper. He also has the misfortune of playing opposite Patrick Surtain, which means he just gets thrown at constantly. It's unfortunate.
Well, first of all, that was going to be the player coming out of the huddle already, right? Like, he could be opposite Bomani Jones, and they're going to be like, nah, Riley Moss. Let's see if that's the guy that we're going to pick on until proven otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, and Quinion Mitchell, to be fair, he's not Surtain yet, but he's really good, and I think he has that effect. Can I say something about the Chiefs?
Yeah.
After all this wide receiver talk, I know we're correctly criticizing their offense. I'm more worried about the defense, man, after week 1. I think that was kind of like, you talked about how everyone thought the Chiefs would be better. I think there's this assumption that because Steve Spagnuolo is so good and Chris Jones is so good, they can just keep cycling in these young DBs that no one's ever heard of, like all named Justin and Josh, and it's going to be fine. And it was not fine at all against the Chargers. And I think kind of maybe that got slept on a little bit this offseason, that they have really gotten younger and younger on defense.
I would also point out that Chris Jones is 31 years old, and you can only expect but so much. Like, I get worried, and I know that back and forth that he had with, I've already forgotten the dude's name, in the game in Brazil.
Tart.
Yeah, but when teams start, like, it was like I felt about Malik Neighbors. Hey, man, when it's like this in week 1, y'all already snippy in week 1. We just got here. We just showed up.
Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't Tyrod. So Tyrod was the Chargers defensive tackle who hit Travis Kelce.
Yes.
That was crazy. Yeah. It's, I don't know, though. We've just done this movie with the Chiefs so many times. I'm not going to throw it. I think it's hard, too, after watching the Ravens and the Bills, who, my feeling coming into the season, where those were very too clearly the two best teams in the AFC. I kept the Chiefs in that tier out of respect, but watching all 3 of those teams this weekend, especially watching Sunday Night Football, it just felt like those teams are cut above Kansas City right now. And it's just, I don't know. Can you imagine the Chiefs in that game that we saw between Lamar and Josh? It just feels different.
I feel that way, though. I mean, you just got to wait for the Ravens to get a little yippy, right? Like, they have, I feel like, demonstrated themselves to be the yip masters. You don't want to be the ones we know as the yip masters. And look, Josh Allen has spent a lot of his career being a yip master, but he's not a yip master all the time, right? Like, he might have a yippy moment, but he just looked like Superman in this game.
Yeah, I think that the yips are pretty much gone with him. I hate the Ravens thing so much. I hate talking about the Baltimore Ravens because I am a person who wants to believe that, like, football is logical and you can analyze teams and figure out their weaknesses and game plans and, like, go in and you look through numbers and understand what's going wrong. And then you give me the Baltimore Ravens and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't like as an analyst, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
What do you do with this? A team that loses in weird, stupid ways in big moments, different ways. I do not know what to do with this team. I just don't.
A thing that I always lean on, and it's very important, you can never forget, is we got all this other stuff, and then we got people stuff, right? And people stuff comes up. We talked about this with Dominique last week, and Dominique does not like to say that people can't handle moments or pressure or whatever it was. Like, he just doesn't like to do it. But I think that is an incontrovertible fact. We see it all over the place. We are all built to do different things in different ways. Like, us doing television, for example, there's some things I always feel about doing television. You can or you can't. I can't necessarily make you better at it, but there's some people, a red light comes on and they're going to freeze. It doesn't matter how smart they are. It doesn't matter how much they know or whatever. That light comes on and they ain't got it, right? This happens on other spaces. This happens in sports where you get into your head and you start thinking so much about what it is that you have to do. And it is something that can be overcome. And by the way, to be seen as a champion, you don't have to overcome it all the time. You just need to pop up and do it once or twice. But the Ravens, I think it's, generally speaking, a top-down situation, and that is why I think it's just about time up for John Harbaugh, because Lamar ain't the only person this happens to. In fact, in the game in Buffalo last year, it happened to Lamar early. He pulled it together, and it was Mark Andrews that then wound up wetting his pants in front of everybody. If it's always somebody, we got to start looking at who's in charge.
Yeah. Well, and I also think Harbaugh in that game, you can correctly criticize him for being conservative at the end and turtling up, and that's
behavior.
Yeah, and I think I don't. The problem is not the problem, because I do agree with you at a certain point. If you're a team that keeps doing this and running into walls, there's really no one else to blame, right? I will say though, like, you know, that has not been the problem in other moments where they've gone conservative. So I just don't. It's so frustrating for me. Like, I feel like the good doctor trying to solve a medical mystery. I don't know why I went to the autistic doctor on television there, but
Yes.
TV, like I just see a lot of commercials for that show. Yeah, I just, because we get asked right on these TV shows, like what's wrong with them, and it's my least favorite kind of football analysis, which is people just talking about vibes. But at a certain point, there's really nothing else you can do with the Baltimore Ravens. They're so good. Like for 80% of that team, they looked like they looked so clearly like the best team in the NFL, and then it all fell apart. And it makes me, and it's going to be annoying too, because now until the end of the season, even if let's say they rebound and they start dominating teams, everybody's just going to say, cool, do it in January. And they're not wrong, but I hate that.
Right.
I hate that argument. I hate it so much.
I do think though, you say you don't like everybody sounding like Stu Gatz. I do think though that if nothing else, looking at the box score of the game against Buffalo, and from watching it, but the box score kind of tells the story. And look, they were so effective on the ground that they didn't throw the ball that much. However, I think number 2 receiver is more of a discussion for them than we kind of give it credit for being. Like, it's what's left of DeAndre Hopkins is what you're kind of leaning on in this. You're also leaning on kind of whatever's left of Mark Andrews, right? Like, these are, I don't feel like these are things that are promised to you for the entirety of a season at this point. That is where I would worry.
Yeah, well, how about the defense, though? I mean,
Yeah.
that was because the offense really until the last 2 drives wasn't the issue. The lack of pass rush jumped out to me, and they've been so good at creating, like, ginning up a pass rush through scheme. They don't have like a dominant rusher on that defensive line, but I think this is a great example of like, okay, but let's week 1, like, yes, it didn't look like the pass rush was getting it done, but also Josh Allen might be the hardest quarterback to sack outside of your own quarterback in all of football. And the Bills' offensive line is awesome. So I don't want to overreact to the defense and the lack of pass rush in this, because I think a lot of that was just Buffalo.
It's going to be interesting if Buffalo turns out to be that good, right? Because,
dude, the defense is not good, though.
I know.
Like, they were good for the one drive where it mattered, but the whole game they were getting gashed.
I know.
I'm actually really interested in this week's game against the Jets for that reason, because the Jets looked like a very good rushing team week 1, and the Bills team just got ran through. So let's see, right? Like, is this going to be an issue all year? We're going to find out.
Yeah, no, this is AFC is going to be fun, man. AFC is going to be fun to check. I want to get back to the Chiefs on this question because I don't have the great answer for it, right? And you go back through the history of the NFL, and I know a few people have written this piece over the years. Like, I feel like either Grantland or The Ringer, one of those incarnations of Simmons' World, has done this. But when you go and see who's held the belt for being the best quarterback in the league, it is not quite the straight line that you think it is, right? Like, when Joe Montana retired, people of my age and a little older had a fair point that he was the greatest quarterback of all time. But it didn't really get to a place where people thought he was like the best quarterback in the NFL really until like 1989, 1990. Dan Marino was the best quarterback in the NFL from 1984 to 1986 without question. I'm not sure he was ever the best quarterback in the league after that, but you're not going to tell me that Dan Marino got worse. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't add up. And I think that we're at that place now with Mahomes, the greatest quarterback that I have ever seen. Yet it's hard to say that he's better than Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson right now. But I don't know how much of that is his fault, because he was still out here doing that matrix shit in Brazil, completing passes that seemed humanly impossible.
The way I would if you shuffle all the quarterbacks and put them on each other's teams, right? Like if you took Patrick Mahomes and put him on either the Bills with their dominant run game, or the Ravens also with dominant run game, like, and those tight ends, whatever. Like, I am of the belief, and I love Josh Allen, Lamar, that the offenses would look just as good. That Mahomes would look like Patrick Mahomes again. And you can say that's making excuses for him. I just think Kansas City, like, the infrastructure is really not great right now, right? You got a young offensive line in flux. You can't run the ball for shit. You barely have any wide receivers. And the offense, like, looks kind of not right for the moment. It's just, it's a lot of RPOs. It's a lot, and again, it's not fair to Andy Reid for me to say, I don't know, what are you doing? He is clearly having to call that because of the limitations of the personnel. But it's Mahomes is playing at a higher level of difficulty than all of these quarterbacks right now. That makes it really hard to compare them.
Yeah, I think that is a fair characterization. I think we were talking about this earlier this week about Josh Allen. Part of what makes it amazing for him is because you need to send somebody with a big number to take him down. He does not have to play on time. He can be back there however long it takes. Like I think teams have given up on that, like sending the fifth guy because the fifth guy is not going to be big enough to take him down. So you send four, you hope you get pressure, you drop seven, and he buys enough time that somebody's going to get open.
I mean, him and Lamar, right? Like they do it in different ways, but the net effect is the same. They're both unsackable, and they both don't throw interceptions. Like,
What do you do with that?
what do you do with that? Yeah, I know we like last year it kind of turned into World War III in the football world because of the MVP thing, but like it was, and like we talked about this, I voted for Lamar. I just thought what he did last season was just insane. But there right now, I like that it's a hair. Like if you could put him in either or, like they're just and yes, they're both in much better situations than Mahomes. Both play behind good offensive lines. Both have a lot. I think the scheme is also really good for both of them. But don't get it twisted. They are the suns of that the galaxy orbits around or whatever. Like the solar system. Like the reason guys are open, the reason teams are so afraid of the run, the reason teams play certain coverages is because of those two quarterbacks and what they can do with their legs.